Welcome to On Ice, the show about the show. Today, we're talking about Lost, Season 4, Episodes 5 and 6. I'm Will. Also here is Ben, and you can watch full video episodes of the podcast on YouTube. Ben and I also release a bonus hangout show every week that can be found at patreon.com/Dr. Skeleton. Ben, today is a very special day. It is our 400th mainline episode. Congratulations.
Thank you. You too? Yeah. It's been lost the entire time. We've just been repeating for people who didn't understand that.
Yeah, let's explain what's going on. So we've been doing this podcast since 2017. It was called Dr. Skeleton's Art School for many years, and then last year we decided to do this mega mini series about Lost, but it's still the same podcast. It's still just the two of us. So
you can change the name. You could change the name, just like, we could change the name of the country and it would still be the country. Still the same thing,
Yeah. Or the Gulf.
Or the Gulf. Yeah, there
Maybe
you
go. I should actually check. Have there been discussions about changing the name of the country?
Not as far as I know, but
okay.
It's probably up there.
Would Greenland's name change if the US were to buy it? Would they still call it Greenland? Would they call it?
It's a strong name. If they made it like the 51st state, it'd be a pretty strong name for a state, Greenland.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they do Maryland. I don't know why I'm saying it like that either, but Maryland, I guess.
Yeah.
Now that I say it that way, maybe it's not so much. But yeah.
I mean, it's good. It's a good name. It's already a good name. I don't know why you need to change it, but
yeah.
This is indeed our 400th episode. It's hard to believe that we started this podcast way back in 2017. I had to go and check. Donald Trump was actually the president back then. Crazy to think about.
Interesting. Things have not changed.
Well, we don't have anything special planned for this 400th episode. I do think it's a perfect coincidence that we're talking about these episodes on today's show. The Constant, episode 5 here of season 4 of Lost, is evidently a very famous episode of the show. The central story is that Desmond becomes unstuck in time, Billy Pilgrim style. He's thrust backwards and forwards in time, traveling 8 years into the past for part of the story. And to resolve this temporal instability, Desmond needs to find his constant, a fixed commonality between the two time periods. And so if we were sent back in time 8 years, we'd only have to wait around for Sunday afternoon to record our podcast together. In a way, this podcast could be our constants, or, like our wives, or President Donald Trump.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'll lay my cards on the table here, Ben, at the top of the show, a little bit breaking with the form here. The Constant is one of the coolest episodes of television I've ever seen.
Yeah, I thought this is a very good episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if for some reason you haven't been watching the show, but you've been listening to us, which is very weird, you should probably pause and at least watch this episode because it's very good.
It's very good, and it's a pretty well contained story. I mean, obviously some of the I guess I don't know. No one's not watched it, so I'm gonna stop trying to explain that. I think Lost got in as a TV show right at the end of the era of primetime network TV dramas, and I think that this episode is the peak of what the form could be. Sort of as Lost was ending in 2010, the industry soon shifted to the streaming era, and that allowed for some really interesting and compelling storytelling. Like, following up from our conversation last week, I don't think we get Severance without streaming, not on network TV or even with like an HBO in play. But network TV itself is an art form with a particular shape that can scratch a particular itch. And Lost has really given me an appreciation for what kind of stories can be told in this storytelling tradition. And this is like the perfect encapsulation of all of that. It's clever, it's fun, it's emotional, and you know, with network TV like this, you can build up familiarity with these characters. You just spend so much more time with them, with all of their little, you know, side quests and B plots and all of that in a network format, and it can lead to some really interesting, cool outcomes. And that's what happened with this episode, I think.
Yeah. Can you imagine though? Sometimes we talk about this, but I don't know if we're quite keyed in on this. How much better or worse do you think some of these episodes would be if you had to see like an ad for, Old Spice body wash in between the segments?
That's a very good point. I am so allergic to ads that I think that that would we're definitely watching. We get the best version of it now. We're like, I don't know, like we're watching it on like Blu-ray and stuff. So it's been it's not like broadcast. We're not watching an SD or whatever. Like it was maybe broadcast to some people. And it looks great, sounds great, and there are no ads. That would definitely hurt the experience. That's a huge. I don't mean to defend network TV format in all of its forms, or for every feature, but this is this is the best. I mean, honestly, I would do just about anything to never see another advertisement for the rest of my life.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think the streaming ads are worse, to be honest, than what I remember of the TV ads. But still agree. Get rid of.
It should be illegal. Yeah. Advertising should be illegal. Yeah, that's true. I get the streaming ad. We talked about this on our on the Patreon show a few weeks ago. But yeah, the ads that interrupt like your Amazon Prime show or whatever it's so crazy that happens. And yeah, I agree. And at least this stuff was like built with those ad breaks in mind, and rather than just like getting dropped in the middle of a scene like they do on Amazon. Yeah. Well, let's talk about it, Ben. Let's talk about season 4, episode 5, The Constant. Air date February 28th, 2008. This was directed by Jack Bender, written by Carlton Cuse and Damon Lindelof. Let's just jump into it. Desmond, Sayid, and Lapidus experience turbulence while flying the 80 miles, about 130 kilometers, distance from the island where they were stranded to Lapidus' team's freighter, the Kahana.
The Kahana, yeah. Why is he on a last name basis still? He's got a weird last name that's a little disrespectful.
Yeah. Big Frank.
Yeah, Frank. He's Frank to me.
But we know that one writer just really likes the name Lapidus. So maybe he's one of those guys. And so we start getting these trips back and forth across time with Desmond, and so Desmond's consciousness travels back 8 years to 1996, where he is serving with the British Army's Royal Scots Regiment, and we're this is like actual time travel, or like he is time traveling as opposed to it being like a flashback, and so the editing reflects that. I mean, usually in Lost we'll get that rumble, right, and then it'll cut to the flashback or the flash forward. This, I think the editing is very, very well done with this, where it'll just cut mid-sentence, and we're kind of disoriented along with Desmond in a pretty effective way. But yeah, he he goes from 2004 to 1996. And so, is there any big events that might have happened in the interim there?
Ooh, Yes. Had not considered that. Had not
Oh yeah,
considered that. Yeah.
huge. Don't
If
you
I was
have?
going back in time, I'd be the year's 1990s. 9/11, folks. You got five. You got 5 years. Even though maybe you guys already knew about it and are planning on ignoring me anyway. Yeah.
It's really more like the 1996 version of him travels forward in time for the most part of this episode. And so it'd be funny that like every time that he like wakes up or whatever, they like have to tell him more details about 9/11. uh don't you have like a 9/11 story to tell?
Do I?
Don't you have like a big admission you want to make? No, you recently texted me that you had maybe something new to say about 9/11 on the show.
Oh,
on the
yeah, I
podcast.
did. No, I'll have to save it for another one. I completely forgot.
Okay.
Or whatever.
All right.
You know, it comes and goes, folks. It's always on my mind, but it's racing around, learning new things all the time.
It seems likely that we'll probably bring it up again. So
Yeah.
bear with us. So yeah, moments later, when his consciousness returns to the present day, Desmond neither knows where he is, nor recognizes his companions, and has no memory of his life since 1996. And so like he keeps jumping back and forth. One of the things, he gets sent back to this British Army's Royal Scots Regiment, and he screws up the exercise routine that the squadron is doing, or like I don't know, they're all like getting out of bed, and he's slow to do it because he's disoriented, and the CO is like, soldier, why are you slow? And he's like, sir, I was dreaming. Like he's like, tell me about your dreams, soldier. It's such a funny. Is that happening?
I mean, he does it too, right?
And then he does. He's like, I was in
a
a helicopter.
At least it was a military.
At least it was a military dream, sir. Or at least it was a military dream, soldier. Yeah. And so then, he keeps like screwing up the. He keeps becoming disoriented and like slowing things down, and so they're assigned additional push-ups and laps, things like that. His look is different. He's got the long hair in the present, or in 2004.
Yep.
And the beard, and he's got short hair, and he's clean shaven in the past. And apparently you can do a wig. You can do short hair wig, and you don't have to cut your long hair.
Ooh, interesting.
That's just magic to me. I don't understand that.
I'm under the impression that all TV shows are shot entirely like linearly, and so he had to go through a cycle of cutting his hair, growing it out, cutting it again, growing it out again. Yeah.
I mean, if you want to be authentic, that's how you do it.
Sure.
I just don't understand the physics of how you can get. He has a lot of hair. He's got very long hair, and then you could put that under a wig and make it look like short hair. That's crazy.
Sure. Yeah. Roll it
and
back.
Why didn't they use that? Where were these wig magicians for the Jack flashbacks when he's sniffing his wife's feet? Yeah. And it's funny too. That was like the only that when he's meeting Sarah is the only time he's got like the craziest hair of all time. Okay, that's your hair report for the episode. So yeah, he has no memory of his life since 1996. After the helicopter lands, Desmond continues to jump between 1996 and 2004. He is taken to the sick bay, where a man named Minkowski is strapped to a bed because he is experiencing similar problems. This is George Minkowski. Minkowski explains that someone sabotaged the radio room 2 days earlier, and that Desmond's ex-girlfriend Penny Widmore has been trying to contact the freighter
every day or something like that, and they've been instructed not.
Do not answer. Don't pick up the phone. Saeed uses the satellite phone to contact Jack on the island and explains that Desmond appears to have amnesia. Daniel Faraday, our new physicist guy, the physicist from the freighter, asks Jack whether Desmond has recently been exposed to a high level of radiation or electromagnetism, which we of course know is very true. It's about the highest level of electromagnetism or radiation as you could probably get.
Yeah.
Is my guess.
Presumably, yeah.
Yeah. Although Jack is unsure. And so Daniel speaks to Desmond and asks him about his situation. Desmond responds that he believes that he's in 1996 and is serving with the Royal Scots. Faraday understands and tells Desmond that when he returns to 96, he needs to go to the physics department of the Queen's College, Oxford University in England to meet with Daniel's past self, and gives Desmond some mechanical settings to relay along with an extra phrase that Daniel assures him will convince Daniel's past self that this story is legitimate. He tells him to set the machine to, I didn't write it down, but it's like 2.354 hertz, or and 354 and like 11 hertz. And he says, tell me that you know about Eloise. And that'll be the thing.
If I don't believe you. Yes.
If I don't believe you.
Yeah.
Desmond's flashbacks become more frequent and longer. In one of them, he's like on the phone with Penny in like the phone booth, and he's saying like, "Hey, can I see you?" And she's like, "Screw you! I don't want anything to do with you."
Yeah. He does manage to make it to Oxford like immediately though, once instructed.
Yeah. I was sort of expecting we were going to get like, okay, we're going to get a few more interstitials here. He's like on the train or whatever.
Falling over,
Nope, he just shows up.
Zoning in and out. Yep. He's right there.
Which I guess I have no idea how close. It's all
Couldn't say.
the UK.
It's another island, Could be big, could be small.
Damn.
Not really sure.
Very true.
Never been there. I actually have been there, but couldn't tell.
You've been to Oxford University?
No, I've been to the island of that place, It's difficult to explain, the whole country, island, their whole thing. Country,
You're talking about
country
the
thing.
UK.
Yeah.
You think?
The UK or Britain or the England or whatever.
Gotcha. Okay. It kind of sounds like you've been to like the Lost Island. So
there
it's
too.
Kind of like
there too.
So yeah, in 1996, Desmond tracks down a younger Faraday at Oxford, who's got long hair to signify that he is younger.
Yep.
And he's like, I can't believe my colleagues thought I would fall for a prank like this. And he says, I know about Eloise. He's like, oh, okay. Faraday takes Desmond into his laboratory where he is experimenting with a time machine. Setting his electromagnetic device with the settings that Desmond has given him, Daniel places his laboratory rat, Eloise, in a maze and exposes her to electromagnetic energy. The rat appears to become comatose, then awakens and runs the maze. Daniel becomes excited because he had just built the maze and had not yet taught Eloise how to run it. Desmond realizes that, like the rat, he is caught in a time warp that is moving his consciousness between two different bodies at two different points in time and space. I mean, I might argue that it's the same body at two different points in time, but whatever. Eloise dies of a suspected brain aneurysm brought on by the exposure to the time lapse. Desmond becomes worried that he will die like Eloise, and Daniel instructs him to find something or someone, a constant, who is present in both times and can serve as an anchor for Desmond's mental stability. And to me, I was sort of thinking like, it'd be too, I guess, what about the photograph that he's always holding? Why isn't it that? Why isn't that the constant?
I don't know. To be honest, the constant thing confuses me. I don't get what the deal is. I probably wouldn't fare well in this situation because I just didn't get it. What is the constant? What's the constant?
Just like the something that's the same in both times.
But why? Why do you have to do it?
Because he was He had no stability. He had nothing to grab onto. There was like he was so disoriented. That was the thing. Like it was too overwhelming to have like everything be so different between the two timelines that he just needed something to anchor off of. I mean, it's like a science fiction, so like it's not real. But Desmond does live the kind of life that lends itself to there being huge differences in his environment across 8 years. It'd be very funny sending me through time, and it's just it's like you're on your computer again. I'm kind of the constants are all around me.
Yeah,
not a lot happening here. And so I think I'm going to use this opportunity to bring up one of the production notes from this episode, because they made a big deal about this conceit, this time travel thing. Lost writer producers enjoy science fiction themes such as time travel. However, they were careful not to create a paradox. The rules for time travel in the series are outlined in Flashes Before Your Eyes, that episode, although Lindelof has said that The Constant is a more important episode in terms of explaining time travel on the show, by Ms. Hawking, who explains that certain events are inevitable and the universe will eventually correct any errors. Had these rules not been established, the writers feared that viewers would lose interest because the stakes of the characters would be lessened. The writers hoped that The Constant would further establish that there are no parallel universes or alternate realities. And I say all that because it reminds me just like it's just a different time. And I guess I appreciate that they like thought about it, I guess, that they wanted to make things like internally consistent for that. It does not matter to me. Like it could be like I don't really get like I think like hard sci-fi just doesn't really hit for me unless it's doing something. A lot of the times hard sci-fi can be used to like have something very interesting to say and like some sort of clever conceit. Like Primer is very interesting because you can like you set the rules of time travel and do these different things with it. But I'm not like it wouldn't actually work that way. Like that's not why I'm there for the movies. And I don't know. I don't see people like complaining about. Would people have the same issue with Lost today if it was like, I don't know. Do you really need to come up with like a rule book for this? It doesn't matter. I don't know. Maybe that really bugs some people.
I don't know. Yeah, I get what you mean. I get what you mean. Like Primer's interesting because then the movie can kind of become about the rules. But Lost isn't really about. It's not really about time travel, you know.
So that's a good point. That like especially for this show, that you care really a lot about the rules of this stuff. I kind of don't believe you a little bit. You know, like no, you don't. Is this just like they said this for marketing? Or like, you know, like in a thing, like I'm sure you did think about it and maybe you did want to make this part consistent or something, but like overall the ethos of Lost is there's a heavy like just take it on faith element that this stuff is happening. Why do there need to be hard rules?
Though, okay, to take the other side of that, maybe it makes a little bit more sense to be focused on the rules if you think of Lost as a little bit like a mystery movie or a mystery novel or something like that, where if you don't lay out clues, you know, the novel the work is less interesting to people who are, interested in
Sure.
the kind of mystery of it. It feels very, when you get to the end, if they just reveal something you never could have kind of discovered on your own ahead of time, it would feel very unsatisfying. So maybe that's part of where it comes from.
Yeah, it could be just a furthering of Lost's kind of split identity in that way. That it's kind of pulled in different directions where, yeah, it has that hard mystery element that there's clues and there's going to be a solution eventually, some sort of puzzle box thing. And then there's also the thematic mystery faith elements that are going on as well. And this is just more of an example. Zoe and I are continuing to watch The Leftovers alongside this, and Severance too, because we talked about that last week. Wow, that's very interesting. 3 shows to be watching at the same time. Obviously, we've talked a lot about Lost and The Leftovers. In it, the more of Lost that I watch, and then the more I revisit The Leftovers, the clearer it is to me. Maybe I'm projecting this, but the clearer it is to me how much like Damon Lindelof is sort of like reacting to or responding to Lost. Like he just leans so hard into, I'm not explaining shit, man. Like I think I wonder if like he just got fed up with the like, what does this clue mean? What does that clue mean? It's not what it's about. It's not what it's about. And then of course Severance on the other end of things were like, no, that's apparently this like perfectly constructed mystery box where everything is going to fit together at some point. Kind of the other end of it. I don't know. But I also wanted to bring up this line from the Wikipedia article that the writers hoped that this episode would further establish that there are no parallel universes or alternate realities. So another like addressing fan theories, perhaps, or something to keep in mind going forward. That is something that I kind of wondered when there was the helicopter took off and didn't come back, or didn't land on the thing. Like, are in the little pocket dimension kind of thing? I don't know. So I guess not. Some other thing. So where are we here? Desmond decides that Penny can be his constant. However, he must make contact with her in 2004. To find out where she lives, Desmond gets her address from her father, Charles Widmore, who is at an auction buying a journal owned by Tovard Hanzo, written by a crew member of the 19th century ship called the Black Rock.
Interesting stuff going on while Desmond is in the bathroom flooding it.
That was such a funny thing, because Widmore turns on the thing, and then Desmond wakes up later, and then so it's like, oh, okay, time has clearly passed here, but like that's kind of crazy power move for Widmore to just leave the sink on like that.
Yeah.
Also
very
bad sink design, or like bad plumbing if it like just overflows.
Who is shutting the plug or whatever in a sink in a public place in the first place? I don't do it at home. Do you do that?
No. And Desmond does like the nastiest thing ever, where like he goes and it's, he turns off the sink and it's like, it's filled. And then he like, splashes his face and like drinks the water out of a public restroom sink. I get that it's like a really like fancy thing. So like maybe it's like cleaner than just like, I don't know, a bus station like bathroom. But like,
I'd be a little grossed out just, acting that out.
Yeah.
This is not just a Desmond thing. This is a real actor thing.
Yeah. Because also I feel like they just went to a location, you know? Like it's just a bathroom. We don't need to build a set for this. This isn't going to be like fresh stuff. This is straight up. I mean, yeah, we're going to hit the production office bathroom for this scene. Do you want to come with? Just like splash your face with that water, dude.
Yeah. I'm not saying I do this. Haven't done this.
He's about to admit something that he does.
Guys, sometimes guys pee in the sink, you know? So I feel like they might not be doing that at the auction place, but who knows?
You do hear about people peeing in the sink sometimes.
Yeah. I had a roommate in college that wasn't you, who definitely would pee in our sink because we had like
this is not when we lived. It wasn't either of our roommates. It's
not you. Yeah. No. It was like in a dorm, in a dorm room where we had like a sink, but we didn't have a bathroom. So I think you just wake up in the night and pee in the sink.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do hear about guys peeing in the sink. I've never done it. There's nothing about it that seems appealing to. I don't get it. What's the appeal of pissing in the sink?
I think maybe not having to go. Well, like in the dorm
I guess that situation is I guess a little bit. But that's still crazy. We're like, come on, man. That's like our sink.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the two of us in this room, and like I can see you standing there pissing near my toothbrush.
Yeah.
They
should put sinks like at eye level, you know? 6 foot man eye level.
But then you're just gonna get piss all over the floor in that case. It's gonna be way harder to get your pee in there. I mean, people also talk about like loving to piss outside.
Do they? Do they talk about? Nobody's talked about that.
You're not in the piss chats.
No.
No, dudes talk about that. I don't get it. I wish one of us could like. I wish we could have this argument. I feel a little bit compelled to try to just come up with the reasoning for it, but I can't bring myself. I'm not gonna pee in a sink, man. That's nuts. Imagine peeing in a kitchen sink too.
Hold on.
Right?
That's really evil. That's really evil because people like wash their dishes and stuff like that.
I bet people do it.
I'm not really anything that goes into the sink. I would say I'm not trusting anyway. I've even got my own sink, but I'm not like filling it up and splashing water on my face. You know?
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, I mean, like you're brushing your teeth in there, and like you're spitting it out. I just don't want to. I just don't want like my own spit on my face. Like even that's, let alone piss, like whatever. Yeah. I was listening to a podcast where the guy's podcast, and Brian was talking about he's got this like drain in his basement that he goes downstairs and just like pees into the drain. I think people like dudes be peeing places.
We have a pee. We have a pee
got
drain
him,
in our
got
basement.
him.
We have a drain in our basement, but I think isn't that like the sump pump related thing? I don't really know what the sump pump is. I know it's important. I know we've got one. I don't quite know what it is. I think I know where
like if it
is.
was to flood, it would get water out of the basement.
Yeah,
right?
but I'm like, is it above? I think there's a hole in the ground that I think is connected to the sump pump, or maybe it is the sump pump. The pump must be a separate thing under the ground then. Or that drain. The drain is serviced by it.
I think that at least in my house, the drain is like a separate thing. I've had problems with that drain where I've had like my whole like sewage back up and flood my basement before, and it came through that drain. So it does seem like a safe drain to pee into because that's where sewage. It seems to have access to sewage. I'm not going to do it though. I've got toilets for that.
No, folks, this is what we would be doing
in normal places.
If we were in Lost, these are the conversations we would be having between 1996 and 2004. We'd be snapping in and out of it, talking about sump pumps and peeing in the sink.
It really is. If for any reason like you've been listening to our podcast for 7 years, 7, 8 years now, you'll remember that we have a, this is a very 2017 conversation because we have spent a lot of time talking about faucets on this podcast. And I just realized that's what we've been doing in this episode. All right. Flashback to the present. Widmore, I guess it's 96, but whatever. Widmore is willing to give Desmond Penny's address because he knows that Penny no longer wants to be with him. He says something along the lines of like, I don't hate you, but I know who does.
Yeah.
It's my freaking daughter, dude.
That was pretty good. Pretty good little line.
In 1996, Desmond finds Penny, who is still distraught over their breakup and is not willing to see him. She's like banging on her door, in fact.
Why didn't you just ask your dad for the phone number? Did he do that? I don't think he did.
That's a great idea.
Could have one-hopped,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
He's like, oh yeah, how about you just give me your phone number so she can tell me that so I don't have to go stalk your daughter. That's also probably bad father behavior. It's like, maybe if your daughter's ex is like super desperate to try to get physical access to her, you don't just give him her address.
Yeah.
Little tip. However, he gets her telephone number from her and tells her not to change it because he will call her on Christmas Eve 2004. Somehow convinces her. She's like, I give you my number, will you go away? And I gotta say, this is a very, like, I love this episode and all this, but this show is very unrealistic. I've pulled this exact move to get a girl's number hundreds of times and it's never worked. Just banging on their door. It's saying, I'll leave you alone if you just give me your phone number.
I won't call you for
I won't
8
ever call
years.
you. Yeah. It basically never works. In 2004, Saeed, Desmond, and Minkowski escape the sickbay and begin to repair the broken communications equipment. This is actually very funny too, because like Minkowski's like, yeah, someone sabotaged our communications room. They go in there and like everything is slashed. Like it's so fucked up in there. And Desmond looks to Saeed. He's like, hey, can you fix it? And he's like, I'm going to need a little time. Like, how are you possibly going to repair this? Everything is so broken in there. Yeah. I thought he was like joking. He's like, yeah, I'll need a little time. I'll give me 5 minutes. You were not fixing shit in here, Saeed. But
Has Saeed asked Lapidus for the phone at this point, or is that in the next episode?
No, they do the swap there. Yeah, this is early in the episode where he's like, hey, can I get the phone? And Lapidus is like, give me the gun.
Yeah.
And so Saeed gives him the gun.
The lost gambit once again.
Yes.
But Lapidus also quickly rising in the racist Islander rankings or whatever, because he's like, don't go trying to call Baghdad. These phones can all
so crazy.
Can only call one another.
Yeah.
Man. A different time.
Meanwhile, Minkowski enters into another flashback and dies. He says something like, as he's dying, he's like, can't get back. Something like that. Showing signs of suffering the same fate as Minkowski, Desmond telephones Penny, who tells Desmond that she has been searching for him for the past 3 years, and they reconcile before the power is cut off, or like it dies, like the battery dies. Having made contact with his constant, Desmond stops alternating between 1996 and 2004. Back on the island, Daniel flips through his journal and discovers a note that he had written. If anything goes wrong, Desmond Hume will be my constant. Dun, dun, dun.
You should pick like a very easy to find constant. Why not just be like the sun? The sun is my constant, you know?
They didn't access the sun in that episode though. Like they were all like below deck and that stuff. So it was actually
that's true. That's true.
Easier to contact Penny.
Okay.
But yeah, that's true. He could have been like, I guess it can't just be like your own hand, but like
Do you
here it
also
is.
you just call it? Is it sort of like a dibs thing? Because that's how everybody's treating it. Like dibs
It's
on
my
Desmond.
constant.
Penny's mine.
I wonder if do you think Christopher Nolan saw this episode and he was like, "That's a good idea for Inception." They've got their like little totems or whatever, their little
Hmm.
spinning tops to say,
That's a
if
little more
they're-
practical. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. You know,
yeah,
how
a little
about just carry a little thing with you or something?
Mhm.
I don't know.
Okay, some stray observations from the episode. At the beginning, when they're on the helicopter ride and they're starting to, or Desmond's starting to go in and out of time. He's kind of freaking out, and like the helicopters flying all over the place. Freaking Chatterbox Saeed is like trying to talk to everybody on the helicopter. Like Lapidus is up there like wrestling with a joystick, and Saeed is basically like tapping on the shoulder, being like, "Hey, what do those buttons do? What's going on? You got games on your phone?" And he's like, "Leave me alone." And then he like looks over at Desmond. He's like, "Hey, tell me about your photograph," as they're like spinning around in the air, like just really misreading the situation here. The other things that I wanted to talk about too is that so we meet some new freighter goons. We got a really tall guy. I forget their names, but there's like the tall tank top goon, and he's got like some crazy chompers on him. He's got some very weird veneer things, I think. But yeah, this is going to be a strong 5. This is an amazing episode. People talk about how this is the best episode of the series, and yeah, this ruled. This was really cool.
Yeah,
this was a really good episode.
Yeah, this is a 5. This is a good one.
This episode of Lost on Ice is brought to you by Ben and I. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, checking out our Patreon, patreon.com/Dr. Skeleton. Let us talk about the next episode. This is season 4, episode 6, called The Other Woman. It aired March 6th, 2008. It was directed by Eric Launaville. It was written by Drew Goddard and Christina M. Kim. This is about Juliet. Or is it? Is it actually kind of about Ben? The episode opens with flashbacks to Juliet's life on the island following her recruitment by the others. It's a little bit of misdirection, or I thought it was... watching these sort of like mystery shows, I have a bad habit. This is probably so annoying to watch shows with me. I just need to like shut up and just watch the show. But I try to like anticipate like, oh, are they trying to fake us out here? It sort of seems like, oh, is this? I thought it was going to be a reveal that Juliet is actually the 6th Oceanic. She's the Oceanic 6th. Because this conversation with Dr. Harper Stanhope here, her like this therapist, says they're talking about Juliet says, I just feel like a celebrity ever since arriving. Kind of a little nebulous. They've talked about how like the Oceanic 6 are total celebrities, all of that. But yeah, no, it's a flashback to her life on the island. Yeah, following her recruitment by the others. And also this conversation between her and her therapist. Julia's like, I really don't need therapy. And the therapist says, let's not call it therapy. Let's call it talking. I'm the guy that works on. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Juliet has an affair with an other named Goodwin. We've seen him. And he's married to that therapist, Harper.
Goodwin's
Uh,
a weird. It's kind of a weird name. I don't think I would have an affair with a guy named Goodwin, to be honest.
So Harper Stanhope is her name. Does that mean Goodwin's name is Goodwin Stanhope? Or is his last name Goodwin and he's just going by
He
Goodwin?
must have a terrible first name if he's going by Goodwin. And it's his last name. So I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is his first name because he like later Ben is like, Ethan, go here. Goodwin, go there.
Hmm.
So I guess we can maybe reasonably assume his name is Goodwin Stanhope. Weird
Sure.
name. Harper discovers the affair and warns Juliet that their leader Ben has a crush on Juliet and will punish Goodwin for the affair. Following the crash of Flight 815, Ben sends Goodwin to infiltrate a group of surviving passengers. And he ends up being killed by Ana Lucia after she realizes that he is not a survivor. In October 2004, Ben invites Juliet to what he initially describes as a dinner party, but is actually a private date. Ben leads Juliet to Goodwin's impaled corpse, where she accuses him of having wanted Goodwin to die. Ben then reveals his love for her. Wrong, Wikipedia. He doesn't say that. What he says is, "You're mine."
You're mine. Yeah.
He kind of has a bit of a crash out, a bit of a tantrum.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty weird. Pretty.
Yeah, I guess so.
Cancelable, you know? Somebody needs to get rid of this. Somebody needs to keep an eye on this Ben guy. He's
Look out
acting-
for this guy.
he's
Holy cow.
acting problematic.
He's being weird, dude.
Put him on the list of the Google sheet of
Yeah.
problematic lost guys.
Problematic men on the island to date.
Men on the island, yeah.
In media, yeah. Yeah, but I said that. Yeah, I set this up that this episode is like about Juliet, but might be actually more about Ben. But this is very telling. I think it makes a lot of things kind of fall in place. It explains a lot about his character. Like he's been. I mean, it's not really hard to see coming. He's villainous and all that, but let me try to. I'm kind of like winging this on the fly here, but I think his character has been. Yeah, he's been a villain. He's been like a thinking ahead through everything so far, and he always has a plan. Like he says in this, I always have a plan. And like it really seems like he's super intelligent and he's just always 2 steps ahead of everybody else. But really, at his core, he's just kind of like upset. He's just an obsessive guy. Like he's obsessed with Juliet, and it's about this control over Juliet. And it explains a lot about his character, I think. That it's about this control that he needs to maintain over the others, over Juliet, over whatever this mission that he's on here. But he breaks in that scene for like the first time, I think, when he screams at Juliet and says, "Because you're mine." And Michael Emerson going beast mode as always with his performance. But yeah, I think that's everything you need to know about the character. So like it makes things kind of fall into place in a cool way. Or cool, maybe the wrong word, because it's tough that he's a damn freak. But
How okay, we don't have to get into this now because this is a big thing, but I will just lazily lament. This gets weird. How did Ben learn all these villainous tricks and ways? Because he spent most of his life. He wasn't actually born on the island, but he spent most of his life on the island.
That's a good point. I mean, we see his dad resented him, so maybe he's got some like trauma fueling it.
But
Richard Alpert, the Hostiles, trained them in their ways. Maybe we don't really know much about the Hostiles at this point. Maybe they're all like kind of like that, and he just happens to be like very smart. Or maybe he's just And maybe there's something to do with this Jacob guy. That
Yeah. I just feel to take away the core of the evil stuff, you gotta have you gotta learn. You gotta learn from the street, or your people around you, how to pull tricks and stuff like that, right? At some point, it's tough to be the first guy to invent all of that, all of the trickery.
do you think?
I feel like I guess what I'm saying is, I feel like if I was in the movie The Village and I was outside of the village, spoiler for the movie The Village, also from like 2004 or something, uh, and I went into the village, I feel like I could trick a lot of people
I'm
there.
just doing this, like putting my fingers behind my head, getting Adrian Brody to go nuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that Ben's first evil move was killing his dad, or do you think he was like building up evil the whole time, or like do you think he was like? I kind of feel like that we see his. I think he's just kind of like being normal, and he's talking with. I guess you know what? I guess we see him push the rabbit through the fence first.
Yeah. Because I was actually
As a
specifically
kid.
thinking of killing animals. That's sort of the serial killer move, right? You kill a bunch of animals as a kid and then you move on to humans or something like that.
But he doesn't kill. We don't see him kill.
No, but I'm just saying as an analog, to a serial killer. I don't think
But
he would start out. I don't think his first evil thing, to answer your question directly, even if we hadn't seen other stuff that he's done, I don't think I would believe that that was his first evil thing he's ever done.
I kind of think it might be. I think it might be because of the personal nature of it. Like that, this, like it's less a manifestation of his psychopathy and more a manifestation of his resentment for his dad. It's more about his relationship with his dad than it is him being like a villain, I think.
Okay.
And it's interesting you bring up the rabbits there too, or maybe I brought it up, and in which case it'd be interesting that I brought up the rabbits. Very interesting. Good point, Will, because he does ask about rabbits when Locke brings him his food, right? He asks, like, is there a number on that rabbit?
Mhm.
Like, I wonder if he's got an affection for these creatures, or he's got some sort of experiment thing going. But I think I think he kind of cares about the rabbits.
I thought that was sort of a joke,
Oh,
eating an experimental rabbit, but that's a good idea. Maybe that's true too.
On the night of December 24th, 2004, 3 months after the crash of Flight 815, two members of a science team from the Kahana freighter anchored offshore, Daniel and Charlotte, sneak off to find the Tempest, which is apparently the station that powers the rest of the island, according to Juliet.
Mm-hmm.
Juliet and the crash survivors' leader, Jack Shepard, maybe you've heard of him, notice their absence from the beach camp and pursue Daniel and Charlotte. After hearing the whispers, Harper approaches Juliet. She tells her that Daniel and Charlotte intend to kill everyone on the island by deploying a lethal gas at the Tempest, and that Ben's orders are for Juliet to kill them. This was a very interesting scene because Jack also sees Harper, right? It's one of these, like, is this person really here or are they not really here? We've seen this a number of times throughout the show, and Jack comes by. He's like, "Hey, who's your friend? Hey, what's going on?" And then they look around and then she kind of disappears. So these are I like how Lost handles this sort of thing. So we were talking about how I kind of don't want like a super hard technical explanation of what's actually going on there. I kind of just like how people are. It's more than just a vision of somebody, or more than just an apparition. There is actually like a person there doing that. But it does seem to be some kind of communication that Ben is doing to Juliet by sending a message through Harper. On a trek back to the beach in the morning, Kate encounters Daniel and Charlotte and is knocked unconscious by the latter. She looks in their bag and she sees a bunch of gas masks and she's like, "What's that about?" And then, Charlotte just bonks her. Jack and Juliet come across Kate. While Jack is examining Kate's wound, Juliet sneaks off and continues for the Tempest alone. Inside the station, Juliet finds Daniel in a hazmat suit at a computer. After a standoff and a little bit of a scuffle, I might add, Daniel and Charlotte convince Juliet that they are not going to kill anyone. In fact, they are neutralizing the gas in case Ben decides to use it again, as he had 12 years earlier in an others-led purge of Dharma. I guess I kind of thought that the gas that Ben used before was more like smoke grenade based or like canister based, not like a big like a central heating HVAC.
Yeah. Turned on by
tube.
the gas authority on
Right.
the island, you know.
But
Gas.
I
bill.
suppose,
Yeah.
if we got a bunch of poisonous gases and they're going to use to poison our asses, we'd better, I guess neutralize it. That's a good call.
Sure.
Jack arrives at the Tempest. Go ahead.
Well, it's just good. It's good that they had somebody who knew how to do that. I'd be my dumbass would be sitting on the island all of time, just like, well, we've got gas. I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah,
I don't know how to neutralize it. So we've just still got it here.
Apparently you can neutralize gas with computer. I would never have
Yeah.
thought of that.
Yeah.
I'd have been like, maybe just like slowly let it out like up above us, you know, like very little at a time.
Yeah.
There's no way it's going to just get us all.
If we do it that way.
Yeah. Which I do I just convinced myself, like, you could get rid of poisonous gas like that, right? Or like, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Or just
Yeah.
like a tiny little, probably depends on the poisonous gas. But like, just like a little bit of like mustard gas. If you had just like a big canister of mustard gas, like, yeah, you probably shouldn't breathe it. But like, wouldn't it take, do you need to have like a pretty direct hit? Can't you just sort of like, just like hold it above your head?
Yeah. You should say that.
I would simply hold my breath.
You should say that when the company that you work for, that you're the emissions controller for, has to talk to Congress or whatever. And you're like, yeah, I thought I could just, just
hold it
leak
above
a
your
little.
head. Yeah.
We're just kind of leaking it out. That's what the smokestack's for, you know?
It's up there. What are you talking about? Are you up there? You have a big problem with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Guess it kind of makes sense that I live in Iowa, where saw it today that the levels of lead in our water are not good.
Ooh.
Apparently, there's no level of lead that is safe to have in your water.
Yeah.
And there being any at all is a problem. But now keep this in mind, it would be very expensive to get rid of the lead in the water. So you got to hear both sides.
Nice.
You shouldn't have lead. But
we got to have a little. We got to have a little or we're going to go broke.
what? I mean, what the fuck is government for, man? Get rid of the lead. I don't know. What the fuck? Kind of don't care what it costs. You guys have to. We have a society here. All right. Jack arrives at the Tempest, and Juliet explains that those on the freighter came to the island to wage war against Ben, and she expects him to win. She fears for Jack because Ben thinks that she belongs to him, but Jack shows no worry, kisses her. It's with the smooch. In the barracks, Ben bargains with an 815 survivor, John Locke. I guess just coming to the show for the first time on this Wikipedia article, and like that's the introduction you need to John Locke, I guess. Yeah.
Who's this old guy? Who's this old guy that's bald?
I guess he's a survivor.
Kinda
Yeah.
weird. Yeah. Huh.
Getting a lot of Eggtown vibes from this guy. Ben bargains with this guy named John Locke for his freedom. He reveals that Charles Widmore, the father of Desmond Hume's girlfriend Penny, owns the freighter and hopes to exploit the island. Ben also tells Locke who his spy on the freighter is. Ben continues to reside in the barracks following his release. Wait, who is the spy?
I don't believe it's said.
Okay. Does he just
I was
show him?
I was actually thinking the same thing when you read that. Was it shown?
I don't
Are we doing
know
a very
who
bad
it is.
recap of forgetting this. No, I don't. Yeah,
Maybe he like
implied.
maybe
to be-
Locke knows at this point because he like says he like shows up, he like holds up the thing, and Locke's like, "Oh, really? It's that person?" And then we just don't know. Is that the idea? I don't know. But I don't. Yeah, at this point we don't know.
Okay, Locke. It's Carlos. Who's Carlos? You wouldn't know him. It'd be that kind of situation, right?
Some stray observations from the episode. Goodwin stopped by the lab to to hit on Juliet, give her a sandwich, and Ben's there, and she says, "I'm actually about to see your wife in 10 minutes," and he says, "Tell my wife I said hi." Which is a funny line.
Yeah.
Juliet says, "It's very stressful being an other, Jack." That was actually a funny line. That got me. And the other funny thing that happens, and I'm not proud of this, anytime that Claire talks, and it's like, oh, she's got an Australian accent, I'm always like, it's just goofy. I don't know.
When she's talking to Locke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do, Locke? I'm like, come on, be serious. Ben taped over the Red Sox game to show Charles Widmore beating some guy up.
That was dark. He kind of says it in a dark way too. He's like, "I taped over the game."
Presumably, this was the game that he showed Jack in the
the
in
World
prison?
Series.
Yeah.
The World Series game. Yeah.
Listen, it's been a little bit since I was messing around with VHS tapes and all that, but there was static before and after the security footage of Charles, or the surveillance footage, and it wasn't the length of a baseball game. I'll say that.
Yeah, the game should.
It should just cut
still be there.
Yeah, there should be a hard cut from the
Baseball.
Charles Widmore beating this guy up to
Cracking the bat.
Manny Ortiz going deep.
Yeah.
Or David Ortiz.
Yeah.
Whoops.
David Ortiz.
David
Manny
Ortiz.
Ramirez would have been a pitcher.
Kurt Schilling. You go. Who'd they beat? Who'd they beat in 04?
I was just thinking. I don't know. Really don't remember. Do you know?
Was it the Rays?
That's actually what I was.
Nope.
Kinda
It was the
thinking.
Cardinals.
The Cardinals. Wow. Good
There you
team
go.
to beat. Hate the Cardinals.
Google suggests, why was 2004 a memorable year for the Boston Red Sox? I remember watching them win, and I'm not a Red Sox fan, but I remember watching them win, and I went upstairs to my bedroom and I wrote on a Post-it note, "Red Sox win!" ! Just not knowing how to deal with my excitement, and I just wrote Red Sox win, put it on a Post-it note, and then put it on I had a bulletin board in my bedroom, and it stayed there for 15 years.
Nice. Red Sox win. Nice. It's like the W. It's like flying the W at
I fly
Wrigley
the
Field or
W.
whatever. You just had the fly the post-it note or whatever.
Mhm. Another thing, Hurley is good at horseshoes. He's good at games. That's always a fun. That's a fun theme. I'm gonna give this a 3 out of 5. This was about as filler as season 4 gets for me.
Oh, really?
Um,
This is a 4 for me. I
Yeah?
liked it quite a bit. Yeah.
I don't. Maybe it's tough to follow up the last episode.
Yeah.
This is another funny thing that happens in the flashback when Juliet is being shown her living conditions. Ben calls Juliet's house a humble abode. He's like, "Welcome to your humble abode," and I think that's a bit of a faux pas. I don't think you can call somebody else's house a humble abode. I think it's supposed to be this sort of like self-effacing, like, "Welcome to my humble abode." Be like, "Damn, bro, your abode is so humble." Like, you
Yeah.
live like this in this abode?
Yeah.
It's humble as hell, dog.
But he can be he's being a little self-facing too, though, because he's
'Cause it's the
offering the
nicest
house
one.
to her, and it's the nicest one, and she gets her own place.
That's true.
You know?
That's true. That's true. We do get another Vincent sighting as well. He's getting a belly rub from Son and Jin. That's always
Yep.
good. He's
Yep,
having
yep.
a good time on the island.
I always love when Jin switches over to English.
Yes.
And knocking it out of the park. He's very quickly, Rosetta Stoned it together.
Immersion. You just live on an island with these guys. I guess
Perfect.
that's going to get you there.
Yeah.
There was a little bit like, what didn't he say? Like, but Jack, didn't you say that there are friends? Like, come on,
Yeah.
Jen. Like, dude, get with the program, dude. Like, it's like the island of lies. You of all people should know.
Sure.
And okay, the Zen garden right at the beginning in like the therapist's office. You ever interact with the Zen garden in real life?
Real one. Yeah.
A real one?
A big one. A
A
full
big
size one.
Full size one.
In Japan.
In Japan. Did it bring you peace? Was it restorative? Did it?
No, it was so cold,
Yeah.
It's cold.
I don't think that would hit for me. I think I would be pissed off. Like,
Pissed off?
I'd be pissed off. Like I went to the doctor recently. There was like a Zen garden in the office, like a mini
Like
one,
a little one? Yeah.
like a little one like this in this episode. I was like, you think I'm not like a baby? I'm not gonna be doing it. This is stupid.
Were you supposed to be doing that? Normally they have that like a checkout counter at like a restaurant or something, What was the doctor doing with that? Having people use it?
Maybe
Check out my
like if you're like
Zen.
freaking out in there, like you hit the Zen. I'm like, this is like, no.
I don't think they're doing that. I think you're imagining that.
I was attacked. It was an attack on my honor at the doctor's office.
I think you were
Same thing
mad.
with
I think
stress ball. Do not give me a stress ball.
You're projecting big time. People are just handing you regular balls and you're like, I wish I could squeeze this. I hate that about myself, that I wish I could squeeze this. I wish I could rake that sand in the tiny little Zen garden.
Well, I was wrong about what. Why would there be a Zen garden in the doctor's office?
For looks,
No, like it's like in the exam room.
For looks. There's no way you're saying that you think it's a
I think it's there
clinical
to help.
device.
Yes.
They're just like, yo, chill out.
Yes.
Rake the sand. I
Yeah.
don't think so. I don't think so. Though you're right, it is weird that it's in the exam room. But I would have to see it before I trust you on this. I would have to see it.
All right.
See how it was arranged.
Let me paint you a picture. It was a little Zen garden on the table next to the chair in the exam room.
Did they have paintings on the wall?
They have like the posters that are like signs
Okay,
of
that is weird.
RSV or whatever.
They didn't have any artwork, other art in there.
No.
I still don't think it's a clinical thing. I think it's for looks. But I agree that it's weird.
But it wouldn't be right next to the patient. But they'd put it on like the doctor counter.
Maybe they're not good at decorating, you know?
It could be. Maybe the previous patient left their Zen garden.
Yeah, there you go.
they had a Zen garden up their ass that they got extracted, and then they just set it on the table. That's gonna be it for episode 400 of Dr. Skeleton's Art School, aka On Ice. If you like the show and want to hear more from the two of us, consider joining our Patreon, patreon.com/Dr. Skeleton. Right into the show at drskeletonsartschool@gmail.com. And next week, watch season 4, episodes 7 and 8 of Lost. See you then.